It started with an egg that shouldn't have existed. Deep in the mountains, on a night so silent you could hear your own pulse, a boy was out hunting when he saw it. Sitting alone in an open field, a strange egg, wrapped in a thin veil of white smoke, like it was breathing. He froze. Then he crept closer and picked it up. No cracks, no scratches, just a heavy, unnatural stillness that made his stomach turn. He had no idea what he was holding, but he was about to find out the hard way. Egg in hand, he headed straight for the market to a butcher's shop. His plan was simple: trade the egg for a kilo of pork kidneys. Easy money. But the moment the shopkeeper saw it, the color drained from his face. At first, he thought the boy just wanted to eat it. Then he realized where it had come from, the restricted zone, and he started to shake. "This belongs to the king," he said, shoving it back into the boy's hands. "I'm not risking my life for this." Before the boy could argue, he was thrown out into the street. He tried another shop, but stopped cold. Soldiers were tearing through the market, kicking down doors, shaking people down, seizing everything they could get their hands on. There was nowhere left to turn. Defeated, the boy trudged home to his village, Thulong. His name was Eragon. Since childhood, he'd survived on nothing but hard work and hunting. His mother was gone. The only family he had was his uncle, who'd raised him like a son. Back home, his cousin met him with the usual teasing. The two of them had grown up practically as brothers, so the jabs never really stung. There was love buried under all of it. Whenever they got a spare minute, they'd grab weapons and spar like it was second nature. If the adults hadn't stepped in, they'd have gone at it all night. Eragon still had no clue what he was sitting on. That egg was a total mystery. So he didn't tell a soul. He hid it out by the pasture where the cows grazed. But the curiosity gnawed at him. One day he dug it up and checked it over, tapping it like a melon at the grocery store. It felt hollow, completely hollow. Strange didn't even begin to cover it. But before he could think it through, he got pulled away to work the fields. That same day, his cousin Roran dropped a bombshell. He was leaving, chasing his own future. He wasn't going to spend his whole life stuck in this valley. It stung. But underneath the sting, Eragon was proud of him. His uncle tried to press some silver coins into Roran's hand before he left. Roran wouldn't take it. "I'll earn my own money," he said. "I'll take care of my own family." Those words stuck with Eragon long after Roran walked away. After that, the color drained out of Eragon's days. Same house, same fields, same mountains, but something inside him felt hollowed out, just like that egg. Then, one afternoon, everything changed in an instant. The egg, which hadn't so much as twitched in weeks, started moving, shaking, like something inside was clawing to get out. Eragon shot to his feet. A strange, faint sound rippled through the air, and right before his eyes, the shell began to split. Seconds later, a small winged creature crawled out. Its face looked almost reptilian, almost prehistoric, but its eyes burned with something unmistakable. Eragon's heart stopped. It was a dragon. Legend has it a dragon's egg won't hatch until it finds the one person whose fate is tied to its own. Otherwise, it can stay sealed for centuries. And whoever a dragon chooses becomes something rare, a dragon rider, chosen by fate itself. Today, that person was Eragon. The newborn dragon could barely stand. It trembled, stumbled, and crept toward him on shaky legs. Its huge blue eyes lit up like it was seeing the world for the very first time. Then it spread its tiny wings, and a small gust of wind kicked up around it. Eragon was mesmerized. Without thinking, he reached out to touch it. The second his fingers brushed its skin, the world exploded in white light. Eragon staggered backward. The blast came with a deafening boom, loud enough to jolt two men awake miles away. A beautiful woman shot upright in her bed at the same instant, but there was no fear on her face, just a faint, knowing smile, like she already understood that something massive had just begun. So what exactly was happening here? Centuries earlier, this continent belonged to dragons and their riders, the Dragon Knights. Their power dwarfed any army, any spell, anything humanity had ever seen. Because of them, peace held for generations. War broke out. Greed and the hunger for power turned brother against brother. Then came the real disaster. A dragon knight named Galbatorix betrayed his own people. Using forbidden, corrupted magic, he hunted down dragon after dragon, rider after rider, until every scrap of power on the continent belonged to him alone. He crowned himself king, but his kingdom wasn't a kingdom. It was a cage. Galbatorix's rule was brutal beyond measure. Cross him, and you simply disappeared. Anyone with the courage to resist had exactly one option: vanish into the deep forests, gather strength in the shadows, and wait, praying for a miracle that would let them strike back. For years, everything stayed quiet, until an elf princess named Arya uncovered a secret that would shake the entire world. Galbatorix's dragon had laid a new egg. Knowing exactly how dangerous that egg could be in the wrong hands, Arya stole it, no hesitation, no matter the risk. But when Galbatorix found out, his fury was instant. He sent his most feared weapon after her, a sorcerer named Durza. He wanted that egg back at any cost. It was the last thread holding his throne together. Durza tore across the land with his army, closing the gap fast. Arya's allies tried to slow him down, but against Durza, they scattered like sand in wind. Eventually, the princess was cornered, trapped inside a ring of fire, with nowhere to run. "Hand over the egg," Durza demanded. "Now!" In that final, desperate second, Arya played her last card. She raised her hands and spoke the words of the ancient language. A blinding flash tore across the sky, and the egg vanished, flung to some unknown corner of the world. The cost was steep. Arya herself was captured, dragged away into the dark. Meanwhile, far off in the quiet of the forest, a boy named Eragon was hunting, completely unaware his entire life was about to change. Deep in the brush, he found that very same egg, and the next morning, it hatched. Cradled in his arms was Saphira, small, innocent, and already burning with fire behind her eyes. Eragon was still staring at her when a sharp burn shot through his palm. He looked down. There, burned into his skin, was a strange, unmistakable mark. He had no idea what it meant, but one look at Saphira, and he forgot to care. When Saphira started making odd little cries, Eragon assumed she was hungry. He ran off and brought back fresh milk. She ignored it completely, instead darting toward a pile of firewood and burrowing inside. Curious, he crept closer to look, just as she snapped up a fat rat in one violent gulp. That's when it clicked. This was a carnivore, small, sure, but her hunger? Bigger than her entire world. Bit by bit, Saphira became the strangest and most endearing thing in Eragon's life. He made the call to raise her in secret, and Saphira had already made her own choice. As far as she was concerned, Eragon was all that mattered in this world. Around the same time, Durza turned his dark magic loose on Princess Arya. No lie could survive his interrogation. Piece by piece, her resistance crumbled, and she finally broke, revealing exactly where the egg had gone. When that news reached Galbatorix, every trace of color drained from his face. A new dragon rider wasn't just bad news. It was a death sentence for his crown. He wasn't about to let that happen. He gave Durza a direct order. Find the new rider and kill him before he gets strong. Because if a new dragon rider rose up, Galbatorix's entire reign was finished. Durza climbed a raised platform and began chanting, his voice low and terrifying. The words tore through the air. The ground split open, and out of the earth rose an army of monsters with one single purpose: wipe the dragon riders off the face of the world, permanently. That same night, Eragon walked into the village tavern. He'd barely sat down when he heard it. Broken, grief-stricken voices around him. A mother sobbing, saying her 16-year-old son had just been drafted into Galbatorix's army. No one knew if he'd ever come home. Then, from the corner, an old man spoke up, quiet, fearless. His name was Braum. "Life wasn't always like this," he said. "This kingdom once knew real peace. Blood didn't run so freely. Fear didn't sit on everyone's face like it does now." His voice shifted, like a door creaking open into the past. That was the age of the dragons. The dragon riders, warriors who never lost a battle. Their dragons split the sky, and they fought for the honor of this land. The whole room held its breath. Then Braum said something that turned the air to ice. One dragon rider, Galbatorix, betrayed his own people. Silence crashed over the tavern. Soldiers rushed in and hauled Braum away before he could say another word. But as they dragged him off, there was a spark in his eyes. Hope, like he still believed the age of the dragon riders would come back. Braum's words sank straight into Eragon's chest. For the first time, it hit him. Maybe the dragon rider from those old stories was standing inside his own skin right now. Something long dormant woke up in him. He sprinted straight to Saphira and started training her to fly, desperate to get her strong, fast. Something in his gut told him dangerous times were coming. After countless failed attempts, countless crashes, Saphira finally spread her wings and tore through the sky. Joy lit up Eragon's face for about 5 seconds. Then it curdled into panic. Saphira was gone. He stood frozen, gutted, wondering if she'd simply outgrown her need for him. Then a sharp pain shot through his palm. The mark on his hand was glowing, like something invisible was calling out to him. Eragon looked up. His heart stopped. Falling out of the sky like a bolt of lightning was a massive, powerful dragon. It was Saphira, but 100 times bigger. scales gleaming blue, sharp horns crowning her head, the air itself trembling with every breath she took. Eragon staggered backward. Days ago, she'd been a tiny, clumsy hatchling learning to fly with his help. Nobody could have guessed she was hiding this much power. Saphira landed in front of him, and that's when Eragon realized something huge. She could hear his thoughts. Every ounce of fear, shock, confusion. She felt it all. Braum's story wasn't just a legend anymore. It was standing right in front of him. The age of the Dragon Knights had returned. Now Saphira was his voice, speaking directly into his mind. He understood everything she felt. He remembered that very first moment he'd touched her, how the mark burned into his palm the instant their bond sealed. That symbol declared officially that Eragon was now a dragon rider. Saphira told him she had waited thousands of years for her rider, and now she believed, with total certainty, that together they'd drive the darkness out of this world. Hearing this, Eragon thought back to the look in Braum's eyes, that flash of something when the old man hinted a new rider was coming. Braum's story had been cut short, but his words wouldn't stop echoing. Without wasting another second, Eragon slipped into Braum's house in the dark, certain there were more secrets waiting. On Braum's table sat a heavy, dust-caked book, its cover carved with strange symbols, a magic handbook packed with everything about dragons. The second Eragon started flipping through it, curiosity burned hotter than ever. He was lost in the pages when the door creaked open. Braum stood there, eyes locked on the book, face like stone. "Is any of this real?" Eragon asked. "Dragons, dragon riders, all of it?" For a split second, fear flickered across Braum's eyes. Then he shut it down. "Don't go down this road, boy. This path only brings trouble." He practically shoved Eragon out the door. Eragon knew it instantly. Braum was hiding something, but he kept Saphira's existence to himself, too. The moment Eragon was gone, Braum pulled out an old, forgotten chest. Inside, a gleaming sword, sealed away for years, the kind that marked a dragon knight's honor. Old fire returned to Braum's eyes, because the truth was, Braum wasn't just some old man. He'd once been a famous dragon knight himself. For reasons no one knew, he'd been hiding out in this nowhere village ever since. On his way home, Eragon's anger simmered. Braum's strange behavior had only raised more questions. Then he passed a butcher's shop and heard sounds that stopped him cold. He crept toward the window. What he saw made his blood run cold. A monster had the shopkeeper pinned in an iron grip, torturing him. "Where is Eragon?" The creature's voice boomed, low and inhuman. The shopkeeper writhed in pain. Finally, broken, he gave up the address. The instant the monster had what it needed, it killed him. No hesitation. The room filled with blood. Eragon dove under a nearby table, holding his breath, barely escaping with his life. The second the monster left, he pulled himself up and ran, fully aware for the first time just how dangerous everything had become. He was sprinting home when a massive shadow of wings fell over him. Saphira had already sensed his terror. She dropped like lightning, snatched him up in her claws, and carried him into the sky. Eragon screamed, the sound swallowed by the wind. On her back, he shook, tears in his eyes, voice cracking. "Put me down. I can't leave my family behind." Saphira's voice echoed in his mind. "That monster is too fast. If we go back, you'll die." It was too late anyway, but his heart still ached for home. He fought against her grip, trying to break free, and she panicked. If he kept it up, he'd fall. Reluctantly, she gave in and banked hard, back toward the farm. The moment Eragon burst through the door, his whole world shattered. His uncle, the man who'd raised him, the man he trusted more than anyone, was dead, murdered without mercy. The room was soaked in blood. Eragon dropped to his knees, hands shaking, breath caught somewhere in his throat. Saphira came to him gently, trying to comfort him, but Eragon's grief had already curdled into rage. He rounded on her. "This is your fault," he shouted. "If you hadn't stopped me, I could have saved him." Saphira tried to reason with him, calm and steady. "Eragon, we have to leave. That thing could come back any minute." He wasn't listening. Every ounce of pain, every drop of blame, he hurled it all at her. Sadness filled her eyes. She knew arguing was pointless right now. She spread her wings and flew off into the dark, leaving Eragon on his knees, sobbing so hard he could barely breathe. Then, a shape at the door. Eragon's heart stopped. The killer, back for him? He grabbed a piece of firewood, jammed it into the fire, and lunged. Someone caught his arm. He looked up. It was Braum. The second Braum saw the mark on Eragon's hand, his face darkened with worry. He knew exactly what he was looking at, the new dragon rider. He hauled Eragon to his feet and started preparing to move. Eragon resisted. He wanted to bury his uncle first. Without a word, Braum set the entire house on fire. Years of memories dissolved into smoke as it all crumbled to ash. Dragging Eragon away from the wreckage, he warned, "If Durza's men find us here, everything is over." Then he threw Eragon onto a horse and rode out at full speed. Dense forest, roaring waterfalls, cliffs that dropped forever. Every mile felt like fear and relief tangled together. Eventually, they stopped on a high ridge, a place known as a dragon hold. "Call your dragon," Braum said. "Right now. She's the only thing that can keep us alive." Eragon hesitated, but Braum's grim tone made it clear. This whole nightmare was Galbatorix's doing, and Saphira had been protecting him every step of the way. Eragon looked up at the sky, silently apologizing in his mind, trying to steady the storm inside him. Braum understood dragons on a level few people ever would. He walked up to Saphira, studying the raw power packed into her frame, her muscles already growing. In seconds, he understood. This wasn't just a dragon. This was a weapon, and she'd only get more dangerous from here. "You're now the last dragon rider in this world," Braum said, dead serious. "Galbatorix will throw everything he has at finding you. There's only one path left. The rebel soldiers hiding in the caves. With their help, you can bring down that tyrant and avenge your uncle." Fear gripped Eragon's chest. He didn't want any of this. He knew the bond between a dragon and rider was unlike anything else. A dragon hatches only for the one it recognizes as its own, and once that bond seals, it's loyal for life. But there was a darker edge to it too, almost like servitude. It's the dragon's duty to protect its rider. If the rider dies, the dragon dies. If the dragon dies, the rider lives on. Galbatorix could never allow another dragon knight to rise. He'd given Durza a final, chilling order. Kill the rider before he gets strong. Durza arrived at Rajaka's stronghold, once one of Galbatorix's fiercest enemies. Now broken and controlled, Durza's personal enforcer. The order was simple. Bring back the dragon rider's head and end this hunt for good. Eragon told Saphira to patrol the skies by day, watching for danger, and meet him again at night. The two pressed forward without rest, racing toward the rebel base. But Durza's men were already tracking their every move. Along the road, Eragon spotted demons looting a wagon. He thought, easy, I've got a dragon now. Braum decided this was the perfect moment to teach him a lesson. Having a dragon doesn't mean you fight without thinking, he snapped, then grabbed a fallen branch and dropped the demons himself in a handful of moves. Eragon got the message loud and clear. Raw power meant nothing without strategy. From here on, Braum told him, Grave, you're facing real life and death battles. Reckless courage will get you killed. Our real enemy is Durza. He commands thousands of demon soldiers. If you want to live, you need to become an actual dragon rider, not just a kid who happens to have a dragon. Eragon went quiet, fear and sadness flickering behind his eyes. Exhausted, he sank to the ground. Braum stood over him, murmuring under his breath, and the instant he finished, a nearby stack of firewood burst into flame. What was that? Eragon asked, stunned. Just a little magic, Braum said flatly. But Eragon could tell. Braum was hiding something much bigger, a secret that went way beyond the dragon riders. Turns out Braum was a master of magic too. Later, passing through an unfamiliar village, Braum suddenly went rigid, like something unseen was watching them. He stared at a spot in the distance for a long moment, then told Eragon, "Go buy some dried food," and walked off alone. Eragon wandered into the village and stopped at a house where a striking woman caught his eye. She smiled. "I'm Angela, a witch. Astronomy, geography, that sort of thing." She studied his face, noticing how on edge he looked, and her tone turned serious. "You're about to walk into serious danger. All of this, everything happening to you, started the day you found that egg." Eragon's head spun. He thought back to his dreams, a girl's voice calling out to him again and again, never once giving her name. Suspicious now, he stepped outside. Someone grabbed him from behind and started choking him. Braum appeared out of nowhere and pulled him free. Turned out the attacker was a demon, one Angela herself had sent. As they scrambled to escape, A swarm of demons surrounded them. Braum drew his sword, but they cut him off. The assault on Eragon intensified. He fired arrow after arrow, but nothing was slowing them down. With no other options left, Eragon focused on one thing: survival. He took a breath, raised his bow, and let out a raw, furious shout. And something inside that cry unlocked a power he didn't know he had. The arrow left his bow as a streak of blazing fire, slamming into the demons and hurling them through the air. But that kind of power has a price. Eragon dropped unconscious the second it was over. When he woke up, the mark on his hand felt like it was on fire. Braum explained, "That fire arrow, that came from the mark. It's tied to a dragon's power. It only wakes up when a rider's in real danger. It kicks in on its own to save you. This power's intense enough to kill an ordinary person," Braum added quietly. A dragon knight isn't just someone who owns a dragon. He becomes a master of magic, too. Eragon's breathing steadied. A little courage crept back in, but Braum wasn't done warning him. Remember, magic has rules in this world. Every spell needs the ancient words, and using it without a real reason is asking for trouble. Eragon looked down at the mark. It wasn't just pain anymore. It was a symbol of power. He understood now. The real fight hadn't even started, and every move from here on needed to count. Magic works like alchemy, Braum said. An equal exchange. It doesn't just hit outward, it hits the person casting it too. Whoever uses a spell absorbs the backlash, and that can drain you enough to kill you. Use it carelessly, and it'll do more harm than good. There was no turning back now. Eragon had to master not just riding a dragon, but every fighting skill he could get his hands on. Braum built Saphira a custom saddle, and Eragon climbed onto her back, taking a breath before his first real flight. She carried him to the edge of a canyon. He looked down, and his whole body went rigid with fear. Before he could react, she folded her wings and dropped into a steep, high-speed dive. Wind tore through his hair and clothes as they plunged nearly 100 meters into the canyon. His heart slamming so hard that from a distance, no one could have told if this was a man on a dragon or a stone falling out of the sky. But as the flights continued, something shifted. Eragon and Saphira started finding their rhythm. He realized controlling her wasn't about strength at all. It was about trust. Then he spotted them, goblins closing in, one racing straight for Braum. His stomach dropped. Without a second thought, he ordered Saphira down. She folded her wings and dove at breakneck speed, weaving through branches while somehow keeping perfect balance. Deep in the shadows of the forest, the goblin struck. Eragon was thrown hard off Saphira's back, tumbling across the ground. She slammed into a branch and crashed too, scrambling to find her footing. Then fate turned. Braum stepped in front of the blow meant for Eragon, taking it himself, and what happened next left everyone stunned. His sword work was on another level entirely. Every strike precise, controlled, deadly. In seconds, the attacker was down. Eragon just stood there, mouth open. Watching Braum fight, one thing was suddenly, undeniably clear. This was no ordinary old man. Afterward, they gathered herbs to treat Saphira's injured wing. Braum turned to Eragon, his voice hard as stone. "From now on, you protect her. No more reckless risks. What happened today was pure luck. She's alive because we got there in time. Next time, we might not." The story continues, as Eragon's training deepens, and the fight against Galbatorix draws closer.